It is our second ever football feedback here. It's our YouTube exclusive show. And I might have actually even started a split second before Brian started recording. Who cares? You guys don't care that much. This show is for you. First of all, it's for YouTube only. YouTube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Only here on YouTube. Number two, this is for you guys. This is a way to be able to reward those of you that contribute to the show in one way, shape, or form. Recently, it's been people that are YouTube subscribers who comment and to be able to interact with you guys a little bit. This is awesome. It's one of the reasons why I love that we have so many patrons. Patreon.com/RT Media. I love being able to have a little bit of a back and forth with you, the listeners that listen to me on all the different podcasts we have every day. This is cool for me. And it's cool for you guys to be able to talk to me, and I'm able to get some feedback from you guys. So let's do it. I think we got 4 or 5 guys today. Obviously, there's always some folks that aren't able to come on because of time constraints. And I tell them the night before when we're doing it. I don't make it easy on them. Sorry, but that's the way my schedule is. So we've got Paul, Ryan, Steve, and Jonathan. Paul, I know, is in the UK. Ryan is in Honolulu, Hawaii. Steve, I know, is a huge Bills fan. So I think he's in Western New York, but I'm not sure. Is that right, Steve?
Yep, you got it.
And Jonathan, I know absolutely nothing about, and he's on his lunch break at work. So I'm starting with Jonathan because Jonathan is in parts unknown. Jonathan, where are you? Who's your squad, and what shows do you listen to and when?
All right, I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and then my squad growing up was always the Ravens. I was a big Ray Lewis fan. After him and Suggs and everyone retired, then I kind of went teamless, and it's just the local squad, the Bombers. So go Bombers, go on that one. What I listen to pretty much all your stuff at work. I'm a tile and stone installer. We're working a lot of custom houses and stuff like that. So pretty much the more content, the better, because I got 9-10 hours a day to fill with a 45-minute commute and then long day at work. So, all right, and then my question for you is about equipment. Where growing up, I played a little bit of like midget football and junior football and stuff, and how to work with equipment and like shoulder pads and down to cleats and gloves and armbands and stuff like that. What did you have to pay for, or what did the team give you, and what did you get to keep?
Jonathan, awesome question. I got to tell you guys, like I'm a curious person by nature, and I love people. I could do this all day. Like I could just have different listeners on and tell me their life story. Like literally, Jonathan, I know I'm going to answer your question, but like for me, how do I say this without coming across? People really like me because hold on a second. Let me explain. That sounds like I'm like whatever, but people really like me because I ask them questions. Like every one of my buddies growing up, their fiance and then their wives, they love me because when I'm around them, I just ask them a million. I'm just curious. Like I just ask them a million questions. Like I could ask you about stone and tile insulation. I could ask you all that. You got to tell me this though. How did you first hear about the shows or start listening?
Well, back in the day, I used to listen to a lot of ESPN podcasts like Mike and Mike and whatever else. Plus, I didn't literally listen to Football Today much before you were on it, but I do remember, as a teenager, or listening to your very first show on that one. So I remember you were confused as to what a podcast was and whatever else.
As a teenager, I love it. Now you're making me feel old. All right, so Jonathan, to answer your question, are you asking what we had to pay for in the NFL?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys like even wristbands and stuff like that. Like, what did you get to keep? What was all provided? I don't know what.
Okay. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right. It's a good question. Yeah. All right. So first of all, you don't pay for anything. Okay. Like you don't pay for anything. And secondly, there are some teams, if this is what you're asking as well, and I've talked about this on the show before, there are a couple teams, definitely the Cowboys, and I've talked about that when I asked if I could keep my helmet, after they cut me, they payroll deducted $300 for my helmet. Now, the Bills definitely didn't do that. Washington definitely didn't do that. I don't know. New England might have charged me something. New England might have, I can't remember. New England might have charged me something for something. I can't remember. And then that was the last helmet I got. So Dallas for sure. And I think New England did maybe $100 or something. I didn't even ask in Cleveland. I was so mad that they cut me. But here's what's interesting, okay? Your cleats and gloves come from your sponsor. So I was a Reebok guy. A lot of guys were Nike. They send you that stuff. You know, so like I would get maybe $6,000 worth of Reebok credit that I could use in a catalog, or I could go to a Reebok outlet and just have like a $500 spending spree. In return for that, they would send me as many gloves and cleats as I want. So I would wear a new glove. I would wear a new pair of gloves every game. Every game. And then I would wear those gloves that I wore in the game the next week for practice. And then the next game, a new pair of gloves. And then those gloves I would just like give to a kid, or I still have some of them. And if I go to like a charity thing, I'll bring them and sign them to somebody. And so I still have a lot of gloves and cleats. I would wear a new pair of cleats every couple of weeks as well. And there are some guys that would wear new cleats and new gloves every game. Every game. Some guys wanted to wear them during practice that week to be broken in. The wristbands and stuff, there's just like huge bins. You can get as many of that as you want. And I used to wear them right here, right around. Oh, I got to go like this so you can see. Right around my elbow, like Ultimate Warrior, right? So for two reasons. Number one is I sweat a lot, and I didn't want the sweat coming down my arm, getting into my gloves. Number two, it made my biceps look just a little bit better, like a little bit better by having those wristbands around my elbow. So I had a million of those too. Good question, Jonathan. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, there he is. I don't even know his last name. Jonathan, the tile stone installer from Manitoba. This is unbelievable. Like, if you would have told me when I was a little kid that, like, someday I'd be doing this, like, this is crazy. All right, next up, because it's probably late at night there. I don't know what time. Let's go to Paul, who's in the UK. Paul, what are you guys 5 hours ahead or 6 hours ahead right now?
5. It's 7 in the evening, so it's not too bad. It's not too bad.
Okay, so you're 5 ahead, and Ryan in Honolulu, you're 6 behind, correct?
Yeah, it's 9 a.m. just passed right now.
All right, so that is unbelievable. Oh, no, so you're 5 behind right now. So you're 5 behind, Ryan, and Paul, you're 5 ahead. So you guys are literally 10 hours apart right now.
Yeah, that's it. I'm in the future.
Paul, it's dark. Ryan, it's unbelievable.
We are close brothers.
Steve, you're just East Coast like me.
East Coast, 2 o'clock.
All right. So, Paul, go ahead, man. Give me what you got. I got to know what shows you listen to, when you listen, how you started listening, and then your question.
Yeah, sure. So I listen to all the shows, every RTFP, and then I dabble in the others when I need a bit more extra content. I listen when I'm doing just chores and stuff, really doing the dishes, cleaning the floor, when I'm walking about, going to the shops, bringing my boy back from nursery, just chores and stuff. That's why I listen. Working out sometimes. I live on the south coast of the UK, so I run along the seafront listening to your pods sometimes, which is cool.
All right, dumb question alert, Paul. Dumb question alert.
Yeah.
Can you like go on the beach? Like, is there a beach area?
Yes, but it's a stony beach. So it's a stony beach rather than sandy. So there's a promenade bit. There's like regular sort of seafront style.
Does anybody actually go in the water?
Yeah, they do this time of year. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It must be so cold, but they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't need to ask Ryan in Honolulu those questions. I was in Honolulu last December. I know what they do down there. All right.
Yeah.
So go ahead. So go ahead, Paul. What's your question?
Oh, I was going to tell a quick story about the first time I heard you on a podcast.
Oh yeah, go for it. Go for
So
it.
I've been listening since the Four Letter Network. The first podcast that I heard you on, you were dialing in from the hospital, I think, after your first daughter was born. So you were calling in all tired, and I was like, who's this guy? Is he a co-host? Is he a guest? I didn't know what was going on.
I don't even remember that.
No,
Is that
you should get
true?
the audio. Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah.
That
You were calling. You were
that would have
calling
been
in.
2012 then. That's amazing. I don't even remember that. That's terrific, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah. I thought you might get a kick out of that one. Yeah. So my question. So how do you think the pandemic might have impacted the NFL's growth internationally, and specifically, do you think it's altered the chances of getting a London franchise at all?
I think the pandemic, well, I don't know the data around how much the pandemic hurt the popularity in the UK, but I know it felt like there was a lot of momentum and a lot of growth with every passing year. And my understanding is that all of the different rights indicated that, right? So like NFL Game Pass, web views, streaming, TV numbers, all that stuff, Sky Sports, BBC, whatever. They were all like this. I don't know what last year did. It's actually a good question, Paul. I'd be curious to know, not having any games over there, what impact that had on the growth. I would imagine it still was growing because people are into it. I just wonder if it slowed that growth a little bit by not having, was it supposed to be 3 or 4 games, Paul? Do you know?
4, I think. I think it's 4.
That's a lot. I mean, that's just a lot of media coverage over there. It's a lot of exposure. So I would imagine it slowed the development quite a bit. And I would say this, I don't know how it couldn't slow the chances of having a franchise over there.
Yeah,
I mean, we're going over a year where people aren't really traveling internationally very much. And I just think the NFL, it will reinforce some of the concerns or issues that there are with trying to have a franchise internationally, would be my guess. So if the timeline was 2028, I think it's probably more like 2035 or something like that. I really do think. Yeah, I know. I just think it's gonna. It really reinforces a whole new set of issues, right? Like even like the NHL and the NBA with Canada, like the teams and Major League Baseball, can't even be in Canada. I mean, it's just, and not that there's going to be another pandemic soon. Hopefully not. But I just think all of the concerns they already had about a franchise in London, those are like on steroids now.
Yeah.
Good question. Paul, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
No worries. Glad to be here. Yeah, cool.
G'day, mate.
Right, there he is. Paul Butler Norman. Amazing. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm saving Ryan for last because Ryan Steve is like a pro. Ryan's on the media, has his own podcast. So I'm saving quote unquote best for last. But Steve, Ryan, I got to tell you, Steve is the man. Steve's been a loyal listener for a long time. Steve's a diehard Bills fan. And Steve, we've had so many email exchanges or tweet exchanges over the years. It is so cool to finally see you and talk to you. So do what the other guys did. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you started listening and stuff.
Yeah, ditto. It's awesome to be a part of this and chat real time with you for sure. I started listening to the RTFP back in the 4 Letter Network days and was hooked ever since. I've definitely listened to every single RTFP. I don't ever miss it. It's been a little challenging since the pandemic hit because my podcast time was always my commute time, where I would just listen and, been working from home since March, obviously thankful to have a job still, but have to kind of, go take a walk or listen while I'm doing chores, something like that. Cause I can't listen to people talk while I work. I just have to listen to music while I'm doing work, to focus on things. But yeah, I'm a diehard Bills fan. I've been one ever since my dad started sneaking me into Bills games as a little kid. He was an usher for around 30 years just as a side gig. And he'd bring me to games. I'd hang out in the parking lot, get players' autographs before the game started. And then he would tell me which gate to go to, or one of his buddies would be, at the time, this was back in the day, ripping tickets. You didn't scan them back then. So I'd go to the gate where his friend Jack would be taking tickets, and I'd give him a piece of paper and he'd rip it like as a ticket. And then I'd go and find my dad, which at the time he was ushering right on the 50 in front of Ralph Wilson's box. So he would know where there'd be an open seat, or if there wasn't, he'd give me a little wooden folding chair that I would sit next to him. And this was during the glory years. So, I mean, I was hooked from then on. It was awesome. A great way to start, being a fan of a team.
That is an awesome story. I love stuff like that. That is an awesome story, Steve. That's amazing. So what were like the glory, like what years are we talking here?
So this was, when they were doing their Super Bowl runs, 90, 91, 92, 93. So I was 10, 11, 12, 13, and this was before there were a lot of luxury suites at the Ralph. So the 50-yard line in front of Ralph's box was kind of like the place to sit. So oftentimes I would sit with players' wives. Like, it was awesome. I sat with Mrs. Tasker, Mrs. Metzelaars, a lot of the guys from those glory years. And, one time I remember Pete Metzelaars got hurt, our tight end back in the day. And his wife had my arm just clenched the whole time, just wondering if he was going to be okay. And luckily he was. It wasn't a big deal.
Oh, my. You know what's so funny, Steve? When the Bills cut me in 2005, okay, I checked out like one of the message boards or whatever, just to see what people were saying about it.
Mm-hmm.
And a comment I copied and pasted, sent to my wife in an email, I'll never forget. It was, well, that sucks. Now I won't be able to look at his hot ass wife at the games anymore in the stands.
I'm sure she appreciated that.
Which I thought was, yeah, of course, because it's like, people get compliments from people but like if a stranger says that, and that's pretty cool. So
that's awesome.
That's awesome, Steve. All right, so what's your question for me?
So I'd love to get your take on bringing more technology into play when it comes to reviewing calls. Like, for example, with tennis, I know there's the ability to see if a ball falls in or out of the court within seconds via like that cool computer animation. I appreciate the old school nature of, two guys holding markers connected by a chain, or the refs, looking up from the bottom of a field goal post. But it would seem, the NFL, with the funds they have, could institute something like that to, figure out if it's a first down or if a field goal actually went in. There was a time last year where Tyler Bass, our kicker, it looked like it was a field goal. Just the refs called it a no-go. It should have been reviewed, but I feel like that kind of stuff could go a long way. Would love to get your take on something like that.
So a couple things. What makes it different than tennis is that in tennis, the only thing that matters is when the ball hits the ground, right? Like whether it's in or out, right? Like was the ball in or out when it hit the ground?
Mm-hmm.
In football, it's where the ball is when the non-hand or foot body part hits the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think that is always going to be somewhat subjective. Like, I think they can do the thing, Steven. And look, by the way, somebody listening might tell me I'm totally wrong, right? I'm just telling you what I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could do the field like they do the tennis court. And I think they could put the same technology in the football. And I think that would probably be most beneficial on like quarterback sneak or anything by the goal line. Like, I think rather than looking at the camera that might not right be down the line, because sometimes the camera is not right down the line. It's a little bit angled, which distorts whether or not the ball actually crossed the plane.
Yeah.
It would seem to me that they could use that tennis technology to be able to decipher whether or not the ball touched the plane of the goal line.
Hmm.
But I don't think they could ever do where the ball should be spotted because of the nature of you have to see whether or not the guy's down or not. And I don't think you can put like computer chips all in a guy's body. You know what I mean? Like I don't think
Sure.
they could do that part of it. As for the chains, it would seem to me like they could just have it where they could digitally know where the 10 yards are. But then again, it's like, how do you do that visually when it's subjective where these side judges are spotting the football?
That's true. Yeah.
That's the one I think here would be my final answer. I think you could definitely do something for the goal line. I think you definitely cannot for spotting the ball in the field of play. What I'm not sure about is the 10 yards and if they could do that digitally for the first downs, like just the measurement part of it.
Got it. Yeah. No, that all makes
Agree,
sense.
disagree, reasonable? What do you think?
No, totally reasonable. I mean, I know, it's a give and take, adding in more stuff adds delays, that kind of thing. But for some of the bigger plays, just feel like some newer technology could be beneficial to, helping out the refs on the field.
Well, look, you've listened to every episode. I think everything should be reviewable, and you just
100%.
don't give the guys any more challenges. But everything should be reviewable. Now they're talking about making roughing the passer reviewable. Make it all reviewable, but
Agreed.
don't give them more challenges. Then you got to really be. You only get 2. I think what you'd have is people would not be challenging questionable things. I think they'd save the challenges for clear errors, which is really what we're trying to do, right? Not
Yeah.
like debatable stuff.
Yeah,
If you only have
100%.
2, so and you don't get any more unless you get them both right. Good
Yeah, I
question,
like that a lot.
Steve. Thanks so much. I'm so glad to finally meet you, man.
Yeah, you too, Ross. Thanks for doing this. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. That was awesome.
All right, go Bills.
Speaking of awesome, our next guy, Ryan. Let me just tell you, you want to talk about a guy that number one is loyal and supportive. That is Ryan. He's known as far as I know, being the number one fan in the world of the Dan Patrick Show, which is awesome. And he's also a big time Browns fan, which is really cool. I'm so happy for you, Ryan. And I guess I'm assuming, Ryan, you started listening to my shows as a result of me guest hosting on Dan's show.
Aloha, Ross. Yeah, brother. I didn't even know you were on ESPN when I first stumbled across you on Dan Patrick Show. So that's it's just so great to see you there and be like, this guy is awesome.
Well, I really appreciate it. And Ryan's been so great. Like I almost forgot some of the GIFs that you made for me. I don't use them often enough because I forgot that Ryan made them. He's amazing with stuff like that. I actually got a chance to meet him in person at the Army Hawaii football game in December of 2019, which was amazing. And his beautiful wife, I may add, an awesome wife. So Ryan's prolific. I know how you listen. I know why you started listening. I also know you have a bunch of questions. So hit me with your best question. Hit me with your best shot. By the way, I might bring that up next time I'm on the Dan Patrick Show. How much I'm loving 80s music these days. Little hint for you there, Ryan. But go ahead. Which question you got for me?
All right, Ross, you talk almost as much as I do. I want to say that you don't use the GIFs because they're called GIFs, and that just shows that you call them GIFs, not GIFs. So we got to get on the GIF. Yeah, great to meet you in Hawaii, and thank you for being so gracious and kind to my wife. All right, I'm going to be greedy. I'm going to go 2 questions, and I hope you stick with me. So the first one is, why are there not porta potties on the sidelines? Some players, I'm not going to name names, but say that they go in their pants on the sidelines. We have a tent for concussions. Why not a tent for a porta potty for you guys?
Well, so I can answer that right away. I think just stylistically, they don't want a porta potty on the sideline. And I don't think there's as many guys that pee their pants as I did. I don't really know. I don't really know many other guys that did, but I did. And I'm not afraid to admit it. I know Mark Schlereth did as well, but I don't think it's that common would be the answer number one, Ryan, that many people would need it. They're not going to have a porta potty on the sidelines just for Ross Tucker, a journeyman offensive lineman. But I think the answer now is that some of the guys do go in the medical tent to pee. So sometimes you'll see guys that go in there and they might just pee in a bottle or something, or they might just pee on the ground. Like they might just take a knee, but now they have the privacy to just take a knee and just piss in the grass or the turf like that. But they do it in the tent now, I think. So that's number one. All right, what's your second one?
All right, so fill-in hosting for Dan Patrick must be an amazing gig. What's it like in the Milford Man Cave, and what advice has Dan given to you in your journey?
So these are all great questions. So first of all, I have never been to the new Dan Patrick Milford Man Cave, but stay tuned. I might be in there sooner rather than later. I've never been in the new man cave, but obviously, Ryan, I was in the old man cave quite a bit. It is awesome. First couple times I did that show, you're nervous and it's a big stage and all that stuff. It's like the easiest thing I do. I feel like for 5 minutes I talk about sports, and then the next thing you know, Paulie says something, or Seton says something, or Fritzy or McLovin, and then like 3 hours go by like that, which, by the way, is the beauty of the show, right? It's why it's so successful. It's why I love those guys, and it's gone well for me. You just like talking with your buddies about cool subjects. Like, that's what's awesome. The other thing that's hilarious, you asking me about advice from Dan and what Dan's like. I filled in for Dan, I don't know, 30 some times at this point. People are always like, what's Dan like? What's Dan like? I always say the same thing, Ryan. I don't know. He's not there when I'm there. The only time I ever talk with Dan is when I do a hit and you guys hear our conversation. I don't really talk with Dan separately. So everybody's always like, what's Dan like? I'm like, I don't know, because when I'm there, I'm only there because he's not. So and now I've emailed with Dan a few times to express my appreciation and stuff like that. And he is an awesome guy, and he's been great about having me on. I'm not some Pro Bowler or Hall of Famer. They get a bunch of big guests on that show. We all know that. So it means a great deal that he brings me on as much as he does, that they like me as much as they do, because a lot of these networks, all they want is like the best player possible. But last time I was on with Dan, he said, it's about content. Like, that was good content. That's what matters. So, Ryan, awesome questions, plural. Thank you again for the social media support, for the gifts. You are one of my top guys. You know that. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Aloha, Ross. Love you, bro.
There you go. Likewise, man. That'll do it for our second ever Football Feedback YouTube exclusive show. Absolutely love it. Hopefully more of you get a chance to listen. You can listen to the first one we did, or watch, I guess. You can't listen. You have to watch. These are YouTube only shows. YouTube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. And then make sure that when you're listening to the podcasts, you listen to how you get on the next one, because we want you. I want you personally. Yeah, I'm talking to you. I want you on the next Football Feedback show, our YouTube exclusive show. Other than that, I'm done.